Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, and you are in the Java Cafe this morning. It is We Need to Know Wednesday. And as I've been mentioning since last week, this has been Equity Week. Monday, we started talking about anxiety. And so that brought some equity into the mental health space. Yesterday we talked, what did we talk about yesterday? Where's the flyer? Yesterday we talked about digital equity. Today we're talking about housing equity, and tomorrow we're talking about education equity. So it is Equity Week in the Java Cafe, and we need to know that though there's a lot of movement, a lot of things happening around affordable housing, with the caveat of affordable for whom, we're nowhere where we need to be when it comes to housing equity and affordability. And so we have folks with us today from Homes for Equity. One who is not a stranger to the Java Cafe, even though he threw me a little bit of shade when he posted it on Twitter. And also we have Maria Lattimore with us as well. And so they're going to come in and share with us what they're doing to raise awareness. There's also an event coming up on the 23rd that we'll share an Eventbrite link with you where you can go get more information about what's going on. So let's bring in Maria, as well as attorney Mark Martinez. Good morning. I'm going to get you today. I saw the tweet. I said, okay, he's messing this morning. But Maria, we won't pull you into our space of shade this morning, but we are talking housing equity this morning. And so I would like, Maria, if you could introduce yourself, and after your introduction, if you could end it with describing where we are with housing equity when it comes to, we'll do that with one word and give us the context in the second segment. And then Mark, if you can do the same right after Maria. But Maria, good morning. Greet the folks. Welcome. I believe this is your first time.
This is my first time, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Listen, you sound good and look good, more than some vets. Mark, you know, doing all right. But Maria, go ahead.
Good morning, Jimmy. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Lattimore, and I'm the project director for Homes for Equity. My quick bio is that by training and profession, I am a project manager, and I spent many, many years working in IT project management in corporations, primarily around Boston, mostly large corporations. And in about 2015, I decided to leave the corporate world and to start my own consulting company. So right now, I'm an organizational development consultant, which means that I work exclusively with nonprofits, and Homes for Equity is associated with many nonprofits, as you'll hear about as we continue. And what I do is that I help them to build capacity in their organizations and have more effective and efficient operations. So I do diversity, equity, and inclusion work. I do project management work. I do strategic planning work, and anything related to organizational development.
It is definitely a pleasure to have you here with us. And Mark, as you're bringing up the you lined me up for that one. I just had to take it. But bro, it is good to see you. I'm enjoying the hair, the latest iteration. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But please catch us up with what reintroduce yourself for folks that don't know who you are. And tell us what you're doing in the space of housing equity as well. And then give us one word. And I'm so curious to hear what your word it is for housing equity. But what's up, bro? Good to see you in the room.
It's good to see you. It's good to be back. Mark Martinez. So, my day job, I'm a housing attorney. I work at the Massachusetts Law Reform Institute. And so really my entire day is consumed with fighting for various housing policies designed to bring a little more equity into the space. My role here, I was on the advisory committee for the Homes for Equity research that they did that was really kind of underpinning and guiding the work as HFE moves forward. And so, just another thing that I was really excited to be a part of. Really incredible work went into this to really put numbers and figures to what we already know, right? All you have to do is talk to anybody that has grown up in Boston, in particular Roxbury, over the last, 40, 50 years, 60, and they'll certainly tell you that housing was never equal here. They'll be able to tell you stories about discrimination in housing. And so, this research is designed to supplement that, not to replace it. And what was the question? One word to describe where we are in housing equity? Far. We are far from it.
Okay.
But, luckily lots of incredible people trying to close that gap. But
give me the context. We'll start with you in a segment. Give me the context as to why you say far when it comes to this, no pun intended, space of, housing equity.
Yeah, I mean, we've had decades, if not centuries, of policy that have led to unequal housing. And, while there are plenty of people that have known that from the time that it's been happening, it seems like it's been somewhat recent. Then there's been a more general consensus that, like, yeah, we did this, and this has been done to people intentionally, in particular Black people intentionally. And so you can't undo decades and decades of, policy backed and policy design inequity overnight. And so we are far, just because it took us a long time to come to a general consensus that this had happened. And so, we are far because of that. We're far because we allowed the problem to persist for so long. But, I want to be clear, just because we are far doesn't mean that I'm not hopeful. Like I said,
Yes,
I'm very fortunate that I, both in my professional life and, projects like HFE outside of my 9 to 5, I'm surrounded by incredible people all the time doing the work to close this gap. And so, I've got no choice but to be hopeful, because I get to work with really brilliant people all the time.
Well, Maria is one of them. And so, Maria, remind us of your word again, and then give us the context as to why you chose that word.
Yeah, I would really be on the same page as Mark. I was going to, more than a word, I was going to say a long way to go.
Okay,
So a long way to go.
It's your
Yeah.
privilege. And so why do you say a long way to go?
I say a long way to go because, as Mark said, this is not news for folks that are affected by it. But it's been going on for decades, if not centuries. And if you look at the statistics, we know that home ownership, there is a huge gap between people of color and Black people explicitly and white people. So in the metropolitan Boston area, it's almost 3-to-1. Not quite, but almost 3-to-1. So about 3 times more white folks own their homes than Black people, people of color in the metropolitan Boston area. And we also know that home ownership is the way to wealth in this country. Most people create wealth for themselves and their family members, intergenerational wealth through home ownership. And so not only is there a significant home ownership gap, that leads to a significant wealth gap. And so Homes for Equity is trying to bridge and close both of those gaps.
And what is it that there is an event coming up? We can, talk about that here and there, just so as folks are jumping, in and out, they can be aware of it. So there is an event coming up on May 23rd, and join us for a free community event. Hold on, let me get my glasses. Profiteering off of Black families, the economics of home buying and decriminalization, discrimination rather. Hold on, Mark, don't do me. Discrimination in Roxbury, and that's taking place at the DeWitt Center on Thursday, May 23rd, from 5:30 to 7:30, and we'll get the link in there in a minute. And so, Maria, like, what is it that people can do I often ask, what are the actionable items that we can do? And feel free to give us context to what you guys are doing and how folks can get involved beyond the event. And then Mark, will come to you around just the importance of this being a issue, for everyone, even if you already have a home and you're good. There are all type of implications that come with more Black and brown people becoming homeowners. There's such a benefit there. And so, Maria, tell us a little bit about the event and also other things that you're doing.
Sure. So let me just give a brief overview of Homes for Equity, the program itself. It's an initiative. And what it is we're doing a pilot with a goal of building wealth through home ownership for people of color, Black people explicitly, who've experienced housing discrimination. That in of itself, that sentence makes it very different from how homes are sold currently. So building wealth for Black people who've experienced housing discrimination. And as I said earlier, our goal is to help to close not only the home ownership gap, but the racial wealth gap. And what this event is about is the second of two events that we've had where we're bringing in folks that we interviewed in an oral history part of our research. So Mark was part of our research advisory council. We had a local research advisory council that guided the design of our research, because when you're going to sell homes explicitly to Black people, that is a bold and innovative way of selling homes. And most people think that you can't do it. I'm going to tell you later on about why we think we can. And so that's one of the big premises of Homes for Equity. We are going to market and sell homes explicitly to Black people in Roxbury who've experienced home discrimination.
Okay, I'm going to chime in. I got the context there, because I get what you're saying now as far as bold, but I'm like, why is it this extra? It should be it should be a standard. It should be typical. It should not be. It should be a norm. You know what I mean? Sorry, I just when you said bold, I'm like, go ahead.
Well, no, that's bold and innovative, and so we're at this event. What we're doing is we felt it was really important. This is part of our grassroots community organizing campaign, having these two events, because we really wanted to do a couple things. We wanted to make the broader community aware of Homes for Equity. It's been around for about 3 years. We've done the planning of it. We've designed the details of the program based on the research, leveraged our advisory council and market all the brilliance that they bought to help us to take that research and make sense of it. That's what the advisory council helped us to do. So we interviewed 9 people as part of our oral history research, and we're bringing those people in and letting them to help us to introduce to the community what Homes for Equity is, because ultimately the type of change that Homes for Equity is going to require the voice of the community behind it, the support of the community behind it. So we are in this organizing campaign, we're making sure that people are aware of it, helping them to know the facts, and we have some economic data that shows the impact of lack of home ownership and housing discrimination on people in Roxbury. And we broke it down by race. And that's why we ultimately decided to go with Black people, because the data supported it. And go ahead.
I was just going to say to Mark, when you mentioned about, the importance of the importance of raising and being intentional around Black people, Mark, pick up where Maria left off in the importance of the work that it's already being done, and why we need to let's talk about the intersectionality of equity. Let's talk about the intersectionality of decreased crime rates. Let's talk about wealth. Let's talk about everything that Maria laid the foundation for. You got the alley-oop, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of times in this country, in our society, right, we tend to be a little individualistic, right? Like, I got mine, and so now I'm gonna, sit back here and protect mine. And I get that, because, especially for people in Roxbury, particularly for Black people and throughout Black Boston, they had to work really, really hard to get what was theirs, far harder than, white people and other people in Boston. And so I get that, but everybody in your neighborhood having a safe and stable home is good for everybody, right? If we want to talk about what's going to make communities safer, what's going to make communities cleaner, it's everybody being stably housed. It's everybody having a place to call home, everybody having a place where they can raise their family, right? We know that, and Jim, we've talked about this before. When we look at the things, when we look at crime and the things that are making our communities unsafe, so much of it can be traced back to poverty, so much of it can be traced back to unemployment, so much of it can be traced back to homelessness. And so, there's a reason that I work in housing, right? It's not just that I have this like deep burning passion for like these buildings that people get to live in, right? It's because it's at the intersection of everything else that I care about, right? You know my history. I care about criminal justice reform. I care about reforms to the criminal legal system. That I care about drug policy. That I care about environmental justice. I care about all of these things, and housing is the thing that, education, housing is at the center of all of those things. People can't get access to education. People can't be safe. People can't have good jobs if they're not safely housed. And so, and that's just a baseline. When you think about what happened in Roxbury and how the problems of housing instability are a direct result of government action, right? People's homes literally being stolen from them, right? People's homes literally being demolished, right? There's an extra layer to that, which is why, HFE focuses particularly on, how do we restore, wealth and stability that was lost by people in Roxbury. This is all in the context, obviously we're having larger conversations about reparations all over the country, but particularly here in Boston. Right. And so this is what we're talking about. We're not just saying, oh, housing was lost in Roxbury, and so now we have to bring it back, right? Like that's an easy statement to make. We all know that happened, but housing wasn't just lost. It wasn't this accident, right? It was taken.
By design.
By design. And if you read the reports, and we won't have time to get into all the details, but if you read the reports, you can see at every single level, the state, the feds, banks, the city, at every single level, it was designed specifically to take homes away from people in Black neighborhoods, to take homes away from Black people.
Or not give them to them in the first place.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
Maria,
that
let me go
amounts
here
to
and ask
wealth
you this question
extraction.
here. What I want to ask you is, Mark referred to the fact that was. The reports show that was, and that gives sort of a past tense context. With the boldness that you're approaching and everything that's going on, and post George Floyd and everything, all of that. And I don't mean to make that a cliche, but some people now it is a cliche. Are there current efforts going on to fight the work that you guys are doing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So we know, and Mark can certainly talk about this more. So the Supreme Court decision in the Harvard case certainly did not help to buttress what we're doing for Homes for Equity. So, but we believe that we have a very strong case. And one of the main reasons that we spent over a year doing the research and brought together the advisory council and spent a lot of time, money, and effort to do the research was that we knew that there was going to be pushback. We knew that there was going to be pushback. We went into this eyes fully open. So we are not going into this with rose-colored glasses by any stretch of the imagination. We have experienced and know firsthand that people are going to challenge us. People are going to push back. And starting really with what we're trying to do around some of the policy stuff at the funding level, right? So, the status quo is well established in terms of, so there's deed restrictions on these affordable homes that people buy, which limit the equity that people can have when they sell these homes. We've been in conversation with the city, starting with the city as a funder for over a year. And that's why we're doing this community organizing campaign for the community to help us support and go to the city and say that this is something that they should consider. They have been open to it. They have had the conversations with us, but we're still negotiating and trying to work through with them how we're going to allow folks that buy homes under the Homes for Equity framework to experience equity appreciation that's higher than the 3 to 5% that they're limited to today. So today, they're limited almost every deed that's out there, and 5% only happened last summer. The city bought in the 5%. Before that, it was a pretty strict 3%.
Let me ask you this. You referenced to the case of the Supreme Court and Harvard, and I want folks, I know the context of that. It sets a stage. There's this intention. I asked the question because I just needed to have you state that there are efforts out there across the board to fight equity. And so, can you just give me about 30 seconds correlation between the Supreme Court case and why you said that?
Well, I'll set it and I'll explain it. I'll ask Mark to take it from there. But, so the Supreme Court said that affirmative action, if you would, I'm just going to use that general term, as has been done in higher education and post-secondary education, is not legal. And they struck it down in all universities, in Harvard and all the other higher education institutions had to go back to the drawing board to figure out, if their goal was to have a diverse student body, they had to figure out another way to do that. We feel very strongly, so we're very realistic and practical people here. We feel very strongly that if the legal perspective was the only perspective that mattered, that we would win. But on the other hand, we know that there's political, social, and cultural aspects largely, influencing a lot of this. And so that's why we need the voice of the community. We need the voice of the community so that the funders become our partners. That is our goal. That the funders, we are not trying to have an adversarial, antagonistic relationship with the funders. That doesn't serve anybody, right? We have been, and they've come to the table in a collaborative manner to their credit, and we want to continue that. But we want to move the dime. We really want to move the dime.
Mark, can you pick up around the Maria gave good context for the Supreme Court case, and I know for me, if it happened for me, it happened for others. With President Gay, that the correlation there, to make it very real for people, is that is an undercurrent and foundation and an active effort to undermine affirmative action and legal legal standing and for I was getting ready to try to think of another legal term to try to impress you. Legal precedents. To tear these things down. And so if you could wrap it up, together in the context of what's going on now and how Maria kept referring to the fact, grassroots and community, folks need to come in. And I just wanted to acknowledge that we did put the Eventbrite link in the comments. It's going to, it did well. It didn't hide our faces. So it is hyperlinked in the comments right there for you to be able to click that and go sign up. I'll ask a quick question. Is there a virtual option? Will this, are you going to Zoom it, or is it just in person?
It's just in person, but okay. I also want to state that dinner will be served from Nubian Market. So food always gets people out. So please come and have dinner.
Absolutely. So Mark, tie us together with what Maria just said and get folks, get them informed so they're moved toward action, toward equity, at the whole mission of this platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been sitting here thinking, right, we've been talking about what has happened in the past, and right, and you asked the question about like what is happening now, and it's really interesting. I think we have this deep history of housing discrimination. Right, everyone knows about redlining. Well, I won't say everyone. Most people now know about redlining, right? What they don't know about is some of the other stuff that Maria has kind of passively mentioned, right? There's the not letting people buy homes, but then there's what happened to the people that are actually able to buy homes, right? Like their homes were consistently undervalued by appraisers. They got subprime mortgages, right? Which is why Black people in Boston throughout the country were hit, far harder with the housing crisis in 2008. They were charged, overcharged for the values of homes, right? There's a lot of things beyond just redlining that have created this issue. And, that went on for decades, and people have this idea, and it's the underpinning of the idea behind, doing away with affirmative action. This idea that like we passed a law, a couple of decades ago that said discrimination is illegal. And so everything's good. Right. Which we know is not true. We know that's not how that works. If we could just like pass a law that made racism illegal, then like we'd all be in a much better place. But, even if we could, right, even if I were to say the Fair Housing Act was this, landmark piece of legislation that, helped so much, which it did in some respects. I often think about Ta-Nehisi Coates and his original kind of case for reparations makes this really good analogy that I like to think about all the time, right? Where we think of kind of this, the Civil Rights Act and other things is kind of the flipping of a switch. Like we flipped a switch and like discrimination went away.
Obama got elected and they're all good. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. But right, he talks about it. He uses the analogy of a credit card, right? That like we've run up this balance on this credit card, right? This racism credit card, and we think that just because we stopped using the credit card, which like I would obviously argue we never stopped using the credit card, but right, just because we stopped using it, that balance isn't there, right? As we all know, if we have credit cards, I stopped using credit cards a long time ago. Guess what? I still have debt. I still have to pay.
I love that analogy, Mark. I love that.
But Maria, he's not done. He's about to preach. Come on, Mark. Bring it home.
Right, and I've always thought it was such an apt analogy, right? Because like I said, let's accept, which I obviously don't, that like racism has not persisted beyond like the Fair Housing Act. Like I said before, right? Like decades. And right, and that's what this, the research report that we did, right? We didn't just say, hey, there was discrimination and it was bad. We put real dollar values to what was lost by Black families in Roxbury.
And it's millions and millions of dollars. For
the tunes, right? In total, millions and millions of dollars. But just for individual families, for some of them to the tunes of $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 that they lost because they overpaid for a home or because
got higher interest rates
were way higher, right? Like we, beyond the physical taking of people's homes that we did when we talk about urban renewal, we also robbed people of generational wealth in other ways. People that were even still able to buy homes and remain in those homes, even to this day, have been robbed. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's homes for their children. That's college education. That's a million other things that we know people, so many families in Roxbury did not have access to. And so that's what I think about, right? When I talk about this kind of debt that we still have to pay off of this credit card, that's the debt, right? There are real deal debts owned to people here. And I think that is why I'm so passionate about, in particular, HFE is, as we all, as people know, I live in Roxbury. I love Roxbury. I've lived in Roxbury for almost a decade. And it's great to talk about housing discrimination on this large scale and the things that we need to do, but to remedy a real deal harm that happened in the lifetime of people, right? This is not a distant memory, right? I have neighbors. I talk to the elders in my neighborhood all of the time. These are people that lived this, who lost homes because of eminent domain and urban renewal and have bounced around Roxbury. And so this really hyper-local approach to a very real problem that we've been able to document and put real deal numbers to is really important, because we do owe these people a debt. We owe these people far more of a debt than we'll ever be able to pay back by like letting them buy a home.
To that point, Mark.
Maria, before we come back to you to wrap up and tell us about the event, Mark, I was waiting for you to take it just to one other level before we turn the organ on. Let's say it stopped. Let's say we got to a $5,000 balance. Let's just say racism, $5,000, blah, blah, blah. There is something called compounded interest. The APR that is still due. You stop using the credit card. Not only do you owe the $5,000, but for the period of time that the $5,000 is owed, on top of the interest that you gain while you're interest
and fees.
Get late. So let's talk. You only get a fee usually when you're late, and so. Yeah. Maria, please give a couple of seconds of commentary to what Mark said.
It's a lot.
Give us a little bit, but give us a couple of seconds. I know it's a whole lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot of interest, a lot of money, a lot of interest,
and a lot of
right.
a lot. Sorry.
It's a lot. And this information is available on the Opportunities Communities website. Opportunities Community is one of the partners in HFE. There are 3 partners in HFE, so I just want to state who they are right now. And we're in the process of bringing others in. So Opportunity Communities, also known as OPCO, the Massachusetts Affordable Housing Alliance, under the wonderful leadership of Simone Crawford, also known as MAHA, and Nuestra Comunidad. We are bringing in other nonprofit CDCs, community development corporations, to build the homes that will be under the HFE framework, and we're also talking to private real estate developers. The biggest one being HYM, which has gotten
Uh-huh.
the bid for the
We
parcel
know,
3.
and we know some great folks over there that are committed to this, and from the developers to the designers to the funders to the backers. Go
Yeah.
ahead, sorry.
So this is no joke. So they're building over 700 affordable homes, and they have committed to putting those homes under this framework. So I just want to talk just real quick about what Mark
Couple
was talking
seconds.
about, the
Okay.
personal impact. So the personal impact. I grew up in Roxbury. I don't live there now. I live in Hyde Park. My family still owns a home in Roxbury. When I started working on Homes for Equity, I shared this in the first event. I never asked my dad is passed, but I never asked my parents, how did we get this home? It's a big old Victorian home over in Roxbury, off of Dudley and Blue Hill. And I finally asked my mother. And so Homes for Equity opens up conversations that are really meaningful. I said to my mom, how did we get this house? Did dad get the GI Bill? My dad was a veteran of the Korean War. And my mom said, no, he applied and didn't get it. We don't know why. But I was wondering if there's historical information out there that I could do some research and find that out. But like many, many families, Black folks tried to take advantage of all these policies, all of the GI Bill for, reduce interest rates and no down payments on mortgages and stuff like that. No, my parents bought that house through, hard work and opportunity that was presented to them.
Mhm.
And fortunately, it still remains in the family. But so many people did not get the benefit of those benefits that were available. And again, it was intentional. It was, I don't know specifically what happened in my family and why my dad did not get it, but this was not a mistake. This was not unconscious.
It speaks to the intentionality, and you talk a little bit about the generational impact that Mark referenced to, and you did as well. When we talk about the billions, Belinda is saying that, yes, Lord, the interest though, the billions that is due. And so very quick, what can folks expect when they come? You just said they can expect dinner. That's going to be catered by Nubian Market. Shout out to that Black-owned business right here in Roxbury in Nubian Square.
Yep.
The Wit Center is in Nubian Square.
Part of
In
Madison
Roxbury
Park
as well.
development. Yeah. Mhm.
And so let's the link is in the comments, and so we're going to have Mark again take it home. But the link is in the comments, everyone, for you to go. Belinda said she got her tickets. I'm going to put that on screen. And so, Maria, what can folks expect when they come to the event, which is the second one on the 23rd?
On the 23rd of May, next Thursday, 5:30 to 7:30. So in addition to dinner, we're going to hear from two of the folks that participated in our oral history research. They gave extensive interviews to our research team, and their information is shared on the OPCO website also. We're going to talk to them about their journey through homeownership, what it was like for them, where they're at right now, how homeownership did or did not impact them personally and their families personally. So these are real stories that I think will be very meaningful for people. We're going to share the research at a high level. So we're going to talk. This particular forum is focused on the economics. So like we've been talking and Mark talked about, the researchers did. There was a PhD economist on our research team. They did crunch the numbers, and we were very conservative around what the economic impact is. And we looked at it from, if folks had invested what they paid in extra interest, for instance, if they had invested in a very conservative savings account versus invested in the stock market, we actually have those details. And there's a lot of supporting material and documentation, but we're going to share some of that research for folks at the event next week, just to help people get a sense of it. This was not benign. It was not minor. It was not by mistake. It was intentional. And it really is about wealth extraction for the community. So we're going to share some of the details about the wealth that has been extracted. So what Homes for Equity is attempting to do is to restore some of that wealth.
Gotcha. Mark and Maria, thank you for all that you do, and also sharing your personal sort of commitment to this, and your family's story as well, which will be an example of what is going on next week. And so, Mark, take us home with what are the actionable items besides attending next week, and I'm going to have to take this other little comment out because well, you know what? I have a way to do it. Maria, excuse us for 1 second. Here we go. There it goes. So, Mark, besides next week attending the event, what are the actionable items that folks can do? You know, we're coming up on an election year. Things are, you know, I really believe in the thing when it's an election year, you get a lot of things done. Folks are a little more malleable. We're at the state level this year, and we're at the municipal level next year. And so, what can we do besides attend next week?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is a problem that has been created at every level of government, right? And so people need to be talk to your U.S. senators and Congress people, talk to your state senators, state reps, talk to your city councilors, and ask them what their plan is, right? Everyone knows that housing is the most important thing. You know, you look at any poll out there and people will tell you housing affordability is the top issue on everybody's mind. And so it's the top issue on everybody's mind, but what are we doing about it? And so, you know, at the city level, we're going through the budget process right now, right? They're doing budget hearings right now. Talk to your city councilors. What are they doing about housing? What are they doing about affordable housing?
And should they specifically, sorry, Mark, you got me back in with my activist space.
Go ahead.
Should they specifically ask for a dollar amount for which they're advocating either individually or some sort of little coalition of the council or whatever? What are they doing? Should they also ask for a dollar amount that is specifically dedicated to this?
Maria, I don't know if that's a specific ask that we have right now.
Okay.
I want to defer.
We don't have it right now. We're also asking people to sign our petition to show that they support the premises of Homes for Equity, that they support the underlying concepts of redress for folks that have experienced housing discrimination. So gotcha. we have a petition out there on change.org.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, like I said, the city's going through the budget process right now. The state's going through the budget process right now. For those that are paying attention, there's also a housing bond bill, the Affordable Homes Act, that's moving through the state legislature right now that is supposed to be responsive to this housing crisis. And so, right, we need to be talking to the people that are making these decisions, and, you know, ask them, what are you really doing? What are you doing to build housing? And not just build housing, what are you doing to build housing that's actually affordable to the people that need it? What are you doing to build housing in Roxbury that's affordable? You can't tell me that you're building stuff at 80% AMI and say that that's good for Roxbury residents. Area median. Sorry. And so,
what is AMI again? I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
The area median income. Sorry.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. But yeah, like I said, this is not, you know, obviously we're focused here on Roxbury, right? We're focused on what happened here, but what happened here didn't just come from the city. It didn't just come from the state. It didn't just come from the feds, right? Like Black people in Roxbury were attacked at every level of government. Every level of government was involved in robbing people of their wealth, of their homes, of their communities. And so everyone needs to be held to task for that, right? Everyone needs to be asked in a very directed and pointed way, and needs to have really directed and pointed answers to what they're doing to remedy that harm, because that's what needs to happen. And remedy that harm for the people that were here. Not just say, let's throw up some homes in Roxbury that anybody can come and participate in.
And I would just add to that to say that people need to take ownership of what happened. Also, that's the first step, because a lot of the pushback we get is people not owning the fact that it happened. That in fact it still happened. Our research went right up to 2020, and it shows in fact that a lot of these, you know, higher interest rates, lack of services in the Black communities is still very much a reality. This has not gone away
at all. Just like the pandemic hasn't went anywhere. And it's interesting you bring up 2020. Folks, don't forget that the event is taking place next Thursday,
next Thursday,
23rd at the DeWitt Center. The link is right there for you to go in and sign up at Eventbrite. Also, here is the website that you can go and find out more information just about the overall efforts. That also includes the other partners like Maha and also OPCO, which is a part, and Western Comunidad, CDC. And so plan to go out next Thursday night and also go to the website. I'm sure the change.org link is there as well for you to sign up and contact your local city councilor. And they didn't say it, but I'm asking you to say it. Ask them what dollar amount, because you got to put the money is where your mouth is. And the last thing I'll say is I heard Maria say the word redress. And in this conversation, we're coming up on Juneteenth and all that other stuff. And then reparations is going to be a sexy topic and blah, blah, blah. Let the redress be reflected in the policies that for some with the swipe of a pen at a few levels can easily be done. And so we'll leave that right there. Maria and Mark, thank both of you. Maria and Mark. Okay, I just realized that. Thank both of you for being here with us today. And keep us abreast of what's going on. And yeah, thank you both.
Thank you for having us too.
I
Thank everybody for joining us this morning.
Thank you both.
Bye-bye.
Folks, this is very, very important. The hyperlink is going to stay in the comments there. You know, the broadcast is evergreen. And so you can also go to this website here to get the overall information. But this is real. This is real. And, you know, as I keep saying, that we have not seen the full impact of COVID in the economics. We are in a presidential election year. We are in a state level election year when it comes to our constitutional officers as far as state rep and state senator. And so, some people don't agree, and I really don't care because I've been in this thing for a long time. You can get some things that you cannot get in an off election year in an election year. I got receipts. So we got to pay attention to this locally. Support our elected officials that are moving behind this. We need to find. I wish I knew who was the head of like neighborhood development and housing on the city council, because we need to check with them and see at what I would presume that this would fall under their purview, or economic development, either or. So Mark and Maria done got me started. So pay attention to this, everyone. It is very, very important. Listen, this is Equity Week here in the Java Cafe. I don't even think the team and I realized that everything's about equity. But I don't think we realized that specifically Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, that's what we're talking about. Tomorrow morning, we're going to continue the conversation on equity and talk with Mission Grammar School, Our Lady of Perpetual Help, about their work around equity and what they're doing there. We'll get a full overview of what that Mission Grammar School does and what they're doing and their intentionality around education equity. I believe that is it as far as announcements. I had put a social media post up. I needed to just let folks know, for those that follow me on Instagram. I'm not sure if I put it on other platforms. Something was supposed to drop yesterday with a partner, and it did not. They apologized and said they gave 2 dates, and they allowed me to believe that the yesterday was the actual one that it was supposed to drop. So it's supposed to drop next week. And so for folks that were looking, what's 514? It's now going to change to 521. I think that is it. I thanked everybody about the health fair. I think that is it. Nobody in the comments. We got all the comments, so we're good. Let me just check Instagram before we get ready to go to make sure we cover all the folks that's over there. That name that I see right there, I was going to say good morning. That name right there is Thick Cakes. So good morning to Thick Cakes over in the Java Cafe over on Instagram. Good to see you in the room. All right, folks, we're out of here. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. where we continue Equity Week, close out Equity Week with talking about education with Mission Grammar School, Our Lady of Perpetual Help. We hope that you guys have a wonderful Wednesday. And again, we will see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Peace, everybody, and have a great day.